In a feudal, futuristic Japanese world where eyes are big and passions deeper, an elegant yet ripped young boy finds a mech battlesuit and must mate with a cute gang of robotic pirate girls to save Earth.
Ooh, you have nice mech battlesuit.
Watch out! She's horny!
Feel the power of the animated wind. Watch Tokyo tremble as a renegade team of barely dressed mango wildcats fight robotic creatures with only a small caliber handgun and slow-motion fists of fury.
Oh, the power of the wind! You whore!
The anime storytelling event of the decade. Oh, and enormous breasts.
Oh no!
Full Robo Hickey Hurry Mech Battlesuit in theaters now. Are you ready to live the real estate dream?
In this city, it's about affordable prestige condo once-in-a-lifetime opportunities.
Feinberg and Van Wyck International Realty. Whether you're new on the market or an old wreck,
We'll take your dream to the limits of prestige in a spacious loft or an outstanding penthouse vision.
it's a 500-square-foot glass-coated box in the sky with windows that won't open and a doorman that masturbates in your bed while you're at work. Only $3 million, only 3 blocks from the ghetto.
This is an up-and-coming opportunity for the go-getter. Take your future by the throat, throttle it, get mortgaged to the hilt, take no prisoners.
Feinberg and Van Wyck International Realty. We've cleared the slums and made the city unaffordable to people except go-getters like you.
Prestige, prestige, prestige. You can be what you want to be, your way, every day.
Visit FeinbergandVanWyck.com.
I like my man close.
Get closer.
I need my man closer.
Get follicle close.
That's not close enough.
It's what a man needs. Some of the world's most advanced technology has gone into this razor.
Excelsior Extreme 9.
The Excelsior Extreme 9.
9 blades of glory.
Some scientists work on how to safely take man into space and back, or nanotechnology. But we're working on improving something that cuts hair.
Excelsior Extreme 9.
Real men don't just shave their face. Get closer. You'll have a face as smooth as a baby's bottom. And we all know how women love to make out with a baby's bottom. Blades only $18 a pair. Technology has arrived at the razor's edge.
It's follicle close for extreme glory.
Excelsior Extreme 9.
Being a parent isn't easy, but it just got a little easier with the Trackify wireless location system.
I watch a lot of cable TV news, so I know that everyone is out to abduct and kill my children. So I planted a microchip in their brains. Now, nobody will molest them but me.
Trackify shows your child's exact location at any time. And Trackify's innovative GPS locator chip is implanted at the base of their head, so there's nothing to lose. But Trackify isn't just for kids.
Getting microchipped is great for people like me who have Alzheimer's and wander into traffic. Broccoli, highlighter.
Trackify. Love just got a little easier to keep track of.
Hello?
Hey!
Jason, I really miss you.
Me too. That's why I'm calling you on my new Wiz wireless camera phone. Hey, I just sent your phone a picture. Check it out.
Ugh, what's that?
My junk?
Connect. Live now. This is the moment. With Wiz Wireless, you can take pictures of yourself aroused and send it to friends. Play with your ringtones. Take a pic of your boss changing at the gym. Avoid people and save time by tapping out text messages that take 20 times longer than if you'd called. It's the incredibly lonely, passive-aggressive future of Wiz Wireless.
Can you see my junk now? Good!
Wiz Wireless. Do the social vibe.
I'm a mom, so I often cheat on my husband when he's at work.
The Trackify homing tracking beacon can send instant location updates to your phone, so you know if your wife is at a rest area taking it in the can from a stranger. Trackify's innovative GPS locator chip is implanted at the base of their head, so there's nothing to lose. Get the trust and peace of mind you deserve. Trackify. Love just got a little easier to keep track of.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, Anne. Welcome, Richard. Hey there, ladies and gents. Welcome to Almanac Paranormal Season 2, Podcast 30. I hope you all had a wonderful Sunday. Please, everyone, make yourself at home. And if you have any questions for our special guest, don't be shy because questions are always welcomed here. Every one of you mean so much to me, and you are all very important to this channel. So I do like to welcome everyone in the chat by name. If I haven't greeted you immediately, I promise I will get to you. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe to us and don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notifications when we go live. And lastly, if you like what we're doing, give us a like. It would be most appreciative. So now let's get on with the show. And let me introduce our guest. Eric Murphy was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, and grew up in a proud Southern heritage with a strict Southern Baptist upbringing. Yes, I know. Eric is very family-oriented and deeply rooted in his Christian faith. After a personal experience in a new home 14 and a half years ago that left him asking several questions that couldn't be explained away or answered, he decided to begin an in-depth research into the paranormal field of spiritual attachments, shadow people to residual hauntings that have spanned since almost 11 years, and offering help within his community by forming Memphis Empath Paranormal Society. As an open-minded skeptic of ghosts in the traditional sense until a most recent experience that left him completely baffled and seeking more answers after being haunted with the ownership of a late 1800s Catholic last rites box in his home, and resulting in him working with Zach Baggins, another paranormal investigator well known in the field, to try and learn what the attachment was with the antique item. Eric has always believed in the plan of God the Father. You die, you stand before him and are judged, and then you go to your forever home. The nature of your home depends on the beliefs in the man upstairs. But then what's left? What if there is an in-between, like the brief mentions in the religion of Catholicism? That's why Eric has set out on a journey and a quest to educate, to inform, capture evidence, and document this incredible phenomenon known as the paranormal realm. Ian Austin joined the team a couple of years ago during the pandemic. Eric saw some of his drone videos on YouTube and reached out to him. He's been a fan of the paranormal, and since joining the team, he has witnessed several paranormal encounters and is now hooked on trying to figure out if there is life after death. I run the Memphis Drone Company, where I've used my expertise to help folks to view their world from different angles and assist the team in capturing these moments on film. So let's welcome Ian and Eric. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, yeah, it's a Sunday. So we kind of touched up on a little bit, but what really got you guys in the paranormal? And I mean, we touched on it. I know there's more in depth there.
Woo. Well, yeah, there's definitely a lot more there.
Right.
But yeah, it was, for the longest time, I really didn't believe in anything. After you die, you just went to heaven or hell, and that was it. Sure. There wasn't anything, there was nothing in between or anything like that. And, I never had a paranormal experience, maybe something that I might not could explain and say, wow, that was weird. But I never thought of it in a traditional sense of like paranormal or above the realm of normality. So it wasn't until later on where I started becoming more aware to things that were going on in my life and things that were going on around me. It was especially once I got into dealing with antiques, and I had stuff start happening at home. I couldn't figure out what was going on, and I tried reaching out to help here where I live, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't find any help, and so that's the reason why that I had to. I figured that if I couldn't find any help, I would just start researching it myself, and that started like 14 years ago. But then after a few years of really researching it and just writing the books, going to the library, trying to expose every bit of research that I could find that other investigators have done over the course of their time investigating the field, that maybe it might help me understand it a little better. And after that, that's when I decided, hey, maybe I can start with other people that's had similar experiences to me.
Mhm.
There was too much of that experience that I couldn't explain away.
Right. How about you, Ann?
Well, mine probably started watching Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventurers, that kind of thing, where I watched it from day one. And actually, it's funny. Me and my brother fell in love with Waverly Hills, which we were talking about earlier. We said, well, we're going to go there one day. And it's just so funny that Eric reached out to me to kind of assist the team in this. And then I was like, well, I've always wanted to do this. So I kind of joined the team and just kind of just went along, and it's been a great experience, just learning and seeing so much stuff.
Right.
I just never knew. People talk about seeing ghosts. Oh, I see a ghost. Yeah. But until you see one, it's like, man, it's a whole different thing. So
Yeah.
So yeah, mine isn't as dramatic as Eric's, but still pretty fascinating.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. I mean, I just want to welcome Brad real quick. Welcome. So when y'all investigate, what equipment do y'all like to use?
Well, we definitely we use all kinds of tools when we investigate. Our biggest thing is that we absolutely 100% before anything else, we believe that the human body is your most vital tool. When it comes to going into a location, investigating a location, the way the human body reacts
Mm-hmm.
to the paranormal, hair standing up, reaction, the heaviness that a person can feel. And I call myself empathic. But I believe everybody has that. You can walk into an environment and it can be a really kind of it's kind of an uneasy environment. You feel like the atmosphere is so thick you can cut it with a knife.
Yep.
And that's a similar feeling walking into some places. Some places can seem a lot lighter. The atmosphere can seem a lot lighter around you. But besides that, I would definitely have to say that, when in the traditional sense of us investigating, we're always looking for empirical data. So we're going to use all the devices in theory. We're going to use the laser grids. We're going to use the millimeter. We're going to use the K2 meters. We're going to use motion detection devices, or shadow detection devices. The basic same things that people have used for the last 5 years now. Not a whole lot's changed other than in the ITC research field. People are using, the SB7s, SB11s, and so we do utilize that. We love ITC research. We are believers in running Gansfield experiments, running the Schofield experiments. We believe in using both of those to kind of go along with capturing data, and that's really what we use when we go out. Definitely digital recorders all the way. We love our EVPs. We love analyzing them and going through. I would say probably out of every investigation that we've been on, I would have to say the most data that we've ever recorded or logged, EVPs.
Yeah. That's a nice one because I mean, whether it's a spirit box or digital recorder or even the microphone on the camera, you know, it's kind of hard when you get direct answers.
Right. We do, and I can say probably in 14 years we've had probably a handful of times, maybe a dozen times, where we've actually caught something on visual evidence that we couldn't just completely explain away or find some kind of plausible explanation for. But with the audio, I mean, is just incredible. I mean,
Mhm.
you go into a place, and we've gone into places that we went into debunk as being haunted. And we've walked out of there and we've gone back and analyzed, our digital recorders, and we've come out with voices going, whoa, that was none of us.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I definitely, audio is one of our big things.
Yeah, and Eric, especially when it's when that audio that you captures a kid,
Oh,
a little kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and that none of us are kids, so we're not
uh,
talking that way. So it's really
Right,
creepy.
right.
So
Yeah.
now, Ian, with you being, I would say probably new into the paranormal, what was your reaction when you heard your very first EVP?
oh, that was the hair just stands up on your arms, and you're just like, oh my goodness, and you listen to it over and over again. You're like, that can't be what I'm listening to, and it's I don't know how to explain it. It's just it's wild.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. Like when you first hear your first one, it's especially like I said, when it's a child or somebody that that's not anybody's voice that's with you. It's me, Eric, and Richard out, and or and it's not none of us. So what is it?
Right.
And then when you catch other stuff you catch actual physical captures of something that you don't really know what it is, but it kind of correlates with the voice. So
Right.
it's I'm sure Eric's going to go into that one.
Well, Brad just said for him it was the excitement. For him, he was excited to get, and I mean, I guess for anybody to get your first EVP, it's not it is mind blowing.
Yeah, absolutely. I still remember the very first EVP I captured, um, when I first even learned about capturing disembodied voices through a digital recorder or through a record. I actually re- recorded it on one of the cassette recorders. It was 14 years ago, so everybody was just getting ready to make that transition to digital. But the I can still remember it just like it was yesterday. I can remember it, and it makes the hair on my arm still stand on end when I think about it. And just exactly what I captured, and what I'd already been led to believe that I was actually experiencing in my house, and it correlated with what I believed it was. And so yeah, it does. It's definitely, and it's exciting. It is. One of the few things, and I don't think I'm embarrassed to say this, but I actually, out of 11 solid years of actual heavy investigating in the field,
Mhm.
more audio evidence that where it wasn't a voice that we picked up. It was an actual EVP. None of us heard it. And then over a period of last year, I was actually capture my first disembodied voice, where I actually physically sat there and heard a woman behind me say help, and from a room that I have access to. It actually had a screen, and it was locked, and you could see through it. You could see the room clear as day. Nobody was there. It was 2:30 in the morning, and we're clear as day in the middle of the woods, and I hear help me.
Wow.
Um, and that's enough to make the hair stand on your arm too. But I can still remember the exact moment
Mhm.
that somebody voice in an environment where there's nobody else,
Yeah.
and Ian had actually had a chance to experience that back over October and November when we took on a private case here in Memphis for a client.
Oh, that it does. I've when I was interviewing somebody about because his home was haunted, and so I was interviewing him, and you hear me go, wait, stop. I can hear, voices. And he goes, oh, my door's open and there's a courtyard down there and there's kids. But later on, I was like, wait, did you hear that? And he was like, no. I was like, that was a woman screaming. You could tell the difference between the kids and this. It was a long scream, and everybody in chat was going, I heard it, I heard it. So it makes it's like, wow. So Brad says, do you ever feel like your energy's been completely drained after an investigation?
Well, I would have to say yes and no. I've gone into some cases that we've investigated, and the next day I feel like I've been on a 3-day drunk, just completely drained, completely wore down, exhausted. Um, and then I've had cases like that we've just actually gone out and done to film for the YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
and out and we've gone to a location and we wouldn't get back home till 3 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and 10 o'clock I'm wide awake, I'm ready to go, and it's a great day and it's a big productive day. Not tired, not exhausted, had a good night investigating, but still did not feel like that what I call the paranormal hangover. Uh, Waverly Hills, absolutely. I had it for 2 days. All I wanted to do was sleep, and it was draining. It was absolutely draining. But that's a massive place, and running around, is enough to exhaust anybody.
What about you, Ian? Have you?
Not too much. Like you said, we're out 3-4 o'clock in the morning, so I attribute some of that to the sleep, because I'm usually a person that gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I haven't experienced that on my end. And actually, it's funny that Eric said that. He actually, when we were driving back from Waverly, I think he slept the whole way, I believe, home.
Wow.
'Cause I was driving, yeah.
Oh, wow. Because let's see, Memphis. I think you're probably a good 3 hours from where I am, three and a half, something like that. So from Waverly, wow.
When it took about 6 hours, I think.
Right.
We got there at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Had an Airbnb, some lady's house, and we walked in. There's pictures on the wall, and I was like, "Wow, we're starting this investigation early." Like some lady's house. I don't even know, but
Right.
it worked out great. We had a good time.
And Brad said and I don't even know how I'm going to pronounce this. He said he got it from Rose, Opera House, but not Waverly. That's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the type of energy that you're going into. We took on a private case in Memphis last year. I believe it was October. It was through the entire. No, I'm going to say, and wasn't it through September and October that we took on the private here in Memphis, and we worked that case over that almost 8-week period and investigating. And that's, investigation, when we take on a private case like that, we're gonna complete it 100%. We're not just gonna go in there and just record our little bit of evidence. We're gonna try to actually get answers for the people. And this one was extensive, and there was probably out of 10 times going there, and a couple of times actually physically getting sick there, Um, I would have to say that probably 3 or 4 different times that I would come out of there and we would be there. I would cut it short. 3 or 4 hours, and it's just too much. Let's go
Wow.
tonight. Yeah, and so I mean, you like I said, I think a lot of it's got to do with the energy you know that's in those places, and
Yeah.
we knew that place a was originally a mortuary, and then later a doctor's office, and then finally a day salon. It's full of energy, residual energy. Extreme amounts of residual energy, and so yeah, I definitely had experienced the fatigue from investigating. That usually will last a couple of days.
Yeah.
And that
What
place
did
was
you
weird too because Eric, remember we'd go there a couple times, and there'd be nothing. Like it would just be
Yeah,
chill,
absolutely.
like, and we feel like we're just running around in circles, like nothing's going on. It doesn't feel heavy. And then other times we get there, it feels like a whole different place. Like it's almost like the game Silent Hill when the alarm goes off. It's weird. That place is. Uh,
It's out of all the years that I've been investigating, and a couple of years that I'm in here now. It was definitely one of probably the most unique places I've ever been to. It was it was one of the most yeah, it was the most troublesome place that we've ever been to.
Oof. Oof. No, thank you. I mean, I didn't even, I wouldn't even go in the place. It was just us doing grocery shoppings and passing when I was living in Holland with my husband. And it was an old prison. And I was like, nope, you couldn't pay me. You could not pay me to go into that place because I have all the senses. I could smell and hear. I was like, whatever took place in that prison, something darker, attached to it. And I was like, no, no, no.
Right.
So all the stuff you've been doing, what is your favorite location and why?
I would have to say probably. I would have to say that probably my favorite location. And I'm really torn between two. Um, I would have to say that I love Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. Absolutely love it. We were there back in the summer, and we didn't catch a whole lot, but it was a really neat place, and I'm really anxious to get back there. Next to it would have to be Hell's Bar Dam. Um, that place was absolutely incredible. By far, I would have to say my favorite place is a place that a lot of people may not even know about, and it's Old Southern Funeral Home by Southern Paranormal and Donald Martin's group that
Mhm.
host it. Old Southern Funeral Home is an incredible place. We captured so much evidence down there. It was an incredible place. I'm actually twisting Ian's arm for us to get back down there, and so
let's go, man.
hopefully yep, hopefully we'll be getting back down that way in the next couple of months. Um,
I'm trying. I'm trying to. I know where I've seen them. I've heard of them. What state are they in?
they're in Mississippi. They're in Kosciuszko, Mississippi.
Okay.
So they're about halfway down the middle of the state, but I mean it's an incredible place. He has it, and also he has the old Atala County Jail, and both places are interesting. I haven't been to Atala, but like I said, the funeral home's great. Hopefully we'll get the jail while we're down there this time around. Um, that's probably one of my favorite places though so far. Uh, Waverly was good. We just didn't catch a whole lot there, and I would actually, excuse me, I would actually I really think for somebody to properly investigate Waverly Hills, you probably need 2 to 3 good full nights of investigating that place.
Yeah.
It's so massive that you're literally running the corridors, and I mean, just it's such a massive, wide open place. I love it to death, but just it's really a hard place to investigate
Yeah.
and, and be able to thoroughly investigate it top to bottom.
What about you? And what would be your favorite location and why?
Well, I haven't been on a whole lot of places. Some of my favorite places were what was that place we went to out there in near Gatlinburg? What's it called?
That was Elkmont.
Elkmont, where we
Yeah.
ate where we ate Waffle House 3 times because it was the only thing open. Yeah, that was. I think we were sick of Waffle House, but I liked Elkmont. I just enjoyed being out there, and it's beautiful out there.
It is.
And I think next time we go out there, we're going to stay in one of those abandoned cabins, man. I think that's going to be awesome. I love that place. And then the first place that he ever took me, he drugged me out in the middle of the woods to this cemetery, and it's where I saw what looked like an apparition, and we didn't get it on camera, but we both saw it, and I love that place too. I think I like the more outdoorsy type places. I don't know. I like the
Yeah,
fresh
that
air.
that place that was actually incredible. I was shocked when we had actually had taken a couple of friends of mine out there to visit the place, and it holds historical precedence. But it's this little small abandoned cemetery that's not maintained out in the middle of Yallabusha County, Mississippi. It's about an hour and 20 minutes south of Memphis. But it is actually the resting place for Elizabeth Powell, Betsy Bell, and from the Bell Witch hauntings.
Mhm.
The it's actually on the it's actually listed in Mississippi as one of their most haunted locations. But the a lot of the claims out there were shadow figures, and and we actually 4 of us, I think it was, in that actually witnessed what looked to be like this shadowy type figure moving across the cemetery, and the shape of a humanoid, had a humanoid figure moving between some graves over behind us and disappearing off into the woods. And I mean, it was incredible. I couldn't believe what we had actually saw. And I actually didn't want to say anything at first. I actually stopped people from talking and said, I asked individually, what did you see? And because I wanted to know exactly what they had saw compared to what I had seen.
Mhm.
Incredible. That
That's
that was a fact.
It was awesome.
that is so awesome. And Richard Yates says that he has heard of that funeral home. And I mean, I had too. I know my father lives in Mississippi. For some reason, I was thinking it was Alabama. I don't know why. Um, so have you ever gone to a location and things didn't go as you expected?
I think every investigation, and that's literally my answer. And I'll tell you why. It's because it's no investigation you ever go on is ever going to be exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I'm kind of torn when it comes to relative research and relative historical research on a particular property that you're fixing to go to, because a lot of times I think that seems to impress, it seems to form an impression on you of what you're already gonna expect walking in. Like for instance, the mortuary we investigated um, back in October. We did not know that it was a mortuary. It was an urgent call that was placed to us, and we spoke with the client, we vetted the case, and then we just went. And then if we had decided that we were going to investigate further, and help the client, then that's at that point we would go ahead and do our historical research on the property. But when we first went in there, we had no idea that it was mortuary. We had no clue on, and personally, I did not have an impression one way or the other. And that was probably one of our most interesting investigations that I know that I have personally done, in years. But again, Tombstone, when I was in Tombstone, every place I went into, I was under the impression of what I was going to, and so I, but it's no case has ever been the same. Would you agree in that everything you've been on, that's the same, and
It's all different.
Yeah.
You get your idea about, and you see places, and you see these content creators over on YouTube, and they go to these places, and if you go in further, you're already kind of got an impression of that location from watching that other content creator. So you kind of are like maybe expecting this, that, or the other, and it's something totally different. It's just like with elk mine. There's a few videos out there, and I've seen them, and then I go in kind of expecting that we're going to get activity. We'll catch some activity in the number 2 cabin, and then we'll catch some activity in number 5 cabin. It didn't happen, but we had some strange experiences that because we were just really thorough with it. But I mean, nothing. It's none of them. I would have to say none of them. None of them goes the exact way.
That is the best answer I've gotten. I mean, it is the honest. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, do you guys either as a group or individually do anything for protection before you do the investigation?
I do. Well, I know that with if it's we haven't handled or took on, we haven't had to take on. I wouldn't say that we haven't handled. We haven't had to take on any major negative cases that I really felt like I needed protection on. I definitely believe in smudging before I go home. If I go somewhere, I will smudge before I go home, just because I want to take it home with me.
Right.
I've gone in and uh, I absolutely have a love for old architecture, so I love to urban explore when I have a chance.
Yeah.
And we were given the opportunity to urban explore the old hospital, the old Oakville Hospital here in Memphis. And when we had the chance to do that, this was actually a tuberculosis hospital. Um, actually, it was built privately as a hospital to provide care for the indigent. And then we had the tuberculosis outbreak, and the individual that owned it actually gave it to the city and the county to use because it was kind of out away from the city. They used it as a hospital and it stayed that way until the end of the tuberculosis pandemic, and then it went into being a care home for people with mental handicaps. And so it's full of history. I'd made several calls there over the time that I worked on the ambulance for a living, and so it was a real treat for me to go and just document what was left of it now since it had been closed for years. And we go in it and we just totally explore it, and we're in there, and Chris and I pick up some crazy things that we couldn't explain, shadows, stuff like that, voices, and but for about 3 days at home, I kept seeing shadows at my house. So I believe that that it's important to smudge before you go home. Absolutely. Um, I also firmly believe in St. Michael's prayer of protection, and I always before I leave the house, I always say that prayer, regardless on any investigation that I'm going on.
What about you, Ann?
Well, I'm so new. I don't know half of what Eric's talking about. So I think he's leaving me out to the wolves or something. And my wife's not going to be happy when I bring a spirit home, Eric. I just want to let you know. So he did try to play in a last rites box in my house. I just want to let you know.
I did.
And yeah. So.
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah, I mean, I say a prayer for definitely whenever I do something that's major. But as far as smudging or saging or whatever, I don't do any of that. But hopefully, Eric will tell me if I need to do that.
Yeah, I did it over the course of doing the funeral parlor. But like I said, I actually physically got sick in there twice when we were investigating it. One time there when we actually captured the image of the child. But that night I did. I went home and I actually set some sage on a bowl under the chair on the porch and just let it sit there and smolder for about 15 minutes and just covered myself in it because I didn't, whatever that was there at that point in time, I did not want that in the house with me. Not after the fact that I knew that I had just gone in there and whatever we were interacting in with there actually had, was able to make me physically sick.
Yeah.
And
that's scary right there. That it made you that ill. I mean,
it did. Wow. I was so distraught by it, and I never get that way. I don't. I might spook easy, but I don't run away. I'm kind of like what firemen do. Firemen run towards the fire. I move towards the noises. I move towards the shadows. I do it like that. I don't run away from anything like that. But I actually knew, but I've got this motto: when in doubt, get out. And I live by that. But in the same sense that, I was so distraught over the fact of, the moment that we walked in and walked down the hallway, we hear what sounds like the two children giggling. Mm-hmm. And then right behind that, less than 5 seconds behind that, we actually hear the growl. And then all of a sudden, I'm still, even though I'm distraught, I am still actually pushing forward, asking for whatever it is there to come forward. And I tried twice. And while I'm doing it, I'm literally thinking that I'm fixing to get sick right there. And I clear my voice a couple of times, trying to clear my throat, trying to hold dinner down. And at that point, I think that was when I just finally lost it. I said, "Hey, I got to get outside." I think I said it maybe 5 or 6 times. And I don't even remember actually saying it that much. But, at that moment that I turned around to go outside was actually when we captured the child that manifested on camera and walked across the screen.
So I have to ask you, Ian, what was going on with you when you were watching him and seeing?
Well, I'd never seen Eric do that before, so I knew something was up. And I don't think we've ever published that video yet, but
we did. No, we did.
Yeah, and you can see that he was distraught, and I was just like, man, I don't know what to do. He says I got to get out, so the only thing I did was follow him, just to make sure he was all right. What's funny is as soon as he turned and said I got to get out of here, and then we turned to follow. It's like the thing, the spirit or whatever it was just following him. It was weird. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible. It's an incredible piece of evidence.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So it was following you.
Yeah, it actually manifested on camera and followed me as I turned to walk away.
Oh.
And it's incredible. I cannot wait for us to. We'll get that. We're going to release that. We'll release that here soon. But like I said, I really debated on it because that's not how I act. And, when we're investigating and I just, I kind of took it really personal. It's been a tough case. It's been a tough case for me to handle and deal with. it actually left us actually reaching out for more help for the client. So, you know, but yeah, like I said, one of the most extensive cases we probably ever worked. Uh, but you know, again, it's the cases like that will. I mean, I believe that the spirits do have a way to, you know, and I at first I really, for a long time, I had a hard time thinking that, you know, there's something that was not still physical of this physical world, blood, skin, and bone could actually have that kind of physical effect on a person, on a living being. And then once that you actually open yourself up and you're actually affected like that, then you realize that it is real and it does happen.
Oh yeah, because the way you explain that, I get it because we would be stuck in traffic in front of this old prison, and I'm just sitting here just like this. And my husband he's dead to the world when it comes to paranormal. Dead, forget it. I mean, something could be poking on him, and no. But he was seeing me, but I was getting ill because I could hear what was going on. I couldn't understand because it was Dutch and it was German. But it was, the Germans were taking city officials to the prison and torturing them for information because they had the Dutch resistance embedded in Rotterdam. And I told my husband, I was like, it makes me ill because I can smell, I can hear. I said, it is the most terrifying thing ever. That's why there's no way. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I mean, I wanted to go to Auschwitz, but he wouldn't let me. He was like, no. He's like, because I don't want you coming out of there damaged. He's like, all the stuff that's happened. I was like, and he's like, no. I mean, it's crazy. So you guys do a lot of residential investigations. What procedures do you guys have for the families to do before you ever set foot on the property?
Before we actually ever go out, if we get a call, a lot of times I'll take the call, and what I like to do is I like to get the pertinent information on the individual that's actually calling, who is actually affected, and the address of the location. Um, and then from there, I like to get into just a little bit of like their actual history, any kind of health related issues, that could be, that we could think in theory that could be causing any kind of, paranormal phenomena that they're experiencing. Um, Also, like I said, um, we try to get their claims and narrow their claims down so that we know, because we don't want to be somebody's entertainment for the evening, more or
Right.
less. And I mean, and there's nothing wrong in that, but a lot of times, like, we're completely 100% volunteer. We don't charge anybody a dime for anything, and so our Ian's time, my time, all of our times, all very valuable to us. So we want to make sure that we're providing the best care to the clients that actually really need help. And and so once with that vetting and those, we have a whole list of questions that we go through with them. And once we do that, we'll determine, hey, we'd like to do an in-person meeting at the location or at the home, business, whatever the case may be. And from there, we will go. We like to go to the home, meet with, and actually sit there, and we will do, once we meet with the family, we like to do just gather baseline information, because again, we're all about that empirical data. Based on readings on K2 meters, see what kind of, if we're getting any unshielded electrical wiring, we're finding any of it. We're finding, spikes that can't be explained uh, necessarily. And we do run through and do a big, huge EVP burst session throughout, on the property while we're there in that time. And then from there, what we like to do is once we've interviewed and done all that, we'll go back, we'll run through the audio, we'll listen to audio, just make sure that we don't have anything that we didn't, that we skipped over, may not have caught while we were listening to the recorder on playback. And then at that time, then we'll make a plan of attack with the client. At that time, we'll decide, whether this is what we would like to do. I mean, of course, when we investigate, I always say, when everybody always says, well, why do you got to run around at nighttime in the dark with night vision cameras? And, my answer to that is, well, we can investigate anytime, right? Well, you got to think about, we're human beings. We're creatures of habit.
Mm-hmm.
So morning when you get up, the first thing you do in the morning, you walk to the kitchen, you turn the coffee pot on, fix your cup of coffee. You've done this for, 50 or 60 years through your whole life. And it's a way, if that's, say it's a residual activity and it's just replaying that timestamp over and over again, you're not going to capture that residual activity happening, at 2 a.m. in the morning. So what I always tell people is that, well, what it does is it actually gives us the opportunity to be able to film in the full spectrum of lighting. We film from ultraviolet to infrared. So natural light is fine. You can investigate natural light, but we like to use both spectrums. We like to use ultraviolet, natural light, and infrared. So again, I say, like, even when you investigate, we like to use full spectrum because you're actually filming the whole spectrum of it. And and that's, I mean, to me, that's why a lot of times when if we go investigate, we may not investigate in the dark. We might investigate in the afternoon, early evening hour. It depends on when the client's actually experiencing the most of their activity. Traditional sense, yeah, we like to be spooky sometimes. We'll go out and we'll go to what we call the Bell Witch Cemetery. We'll go down there at 9 or 10 o'clock at night because usually nobody's out running around down there,
right.
Unless they're like us, and, but, again, when we do a lot of our, house calls and stuff, it's whenever the client has their experience and their time. But we go out there and do that. And, from there, we record every bit of data that we catch or that we have. We try to figure out what's going on. Can we prove whether it's intelligent or if it's residual? If we believe that it may be negative or if it's benign. And there's, and from there we did, best course of action, the best thing, the course of action that we're going to take with a client is that client as comfortable as possible, whether it's trying to get the, whatever's inhabiting their home to move on, or move out and get away from them, get them away from them. And that's, I mean, whether it's us reaching out to a priest to come in and bless the home, bless the family, getting them that kind of be, also education, and that's one of our big things. Our mission statement is just a simple phrase of to evaluate, to investigate, and to educate.
Yeah.
And that's our main goal is we want to educate the client so that they can decide, this is what we can recommend that you do. Well, we want to educate you that, this is what you need to do from that point. And, and that's the whole goal of it.
The interesting thing is, I'm not far from one of the top 10 bloodiest Civil War battles. And there was a house that said, we keep seeing things come through our house, things in our backyard. I mean, they saw, and the team saw it too. it was a soldier on a horse in the backyard, and it turned out it was just residual energy. They're like, there's no haunting. You're okay. It's just a play, like a tape playing back, and the family was that gave them enough security. I've also heard other people say it's even trying to work out a deal between, you know, a spirit and the homeowner, you know, trying to, you know, look, he's maybe a little grumpy, or she may be a little weepy, or, you know.
Right.
Not.
You know, it's, you know, always try to explain it to the homeowner that, you know, is that you have to look at it. You have to look, especially if we don't capture anything that kind of tends to push towards the dark or negative, say. But you know, I hate to say demonic because there's only a special circumstances for that. But
Yeah.
you know, in dark or negative, you know, you are in death what you were in life. So if you were nice, kind, caring person in life, that's what you are in death. You know, if you were just mean, ornery, then you're going to be that way when you die. And so, you know, again, I say that, you know, the thing is that, you know, they're human beings, you know, so, you know, when we have a disagreement with another person or whatever, we try to have an understanding with them so that we can kind of try to meet in the middle, you know, and avoid conflict and avoid, you know, butting. And that's basically what's happening when a homeowner feels like that their house is haunted, you know, and that you know that the ghosts are doing this and that,
Yeah.
and they're trying to get the attention, and you know, it's just, I mean, we're human beings, you know. It was, you know, it was their place that they are now at, even after you know after their life, whether it was originally their home or the place they worked at for years and years, or whatever the case may be. And so, if you can, I always say that if you can always say, you know, if come come to terms with it, but stand your ground in the same sense. This is my home.
Boundaries.
I
Boundaries.
recognize that this is your place, but you got to respect my privacy. You got to respect my family. You know, you got to have. We have to have our boundaries. You can't do this. You know, and that and after out of 7 out of 10 cases that we take on, it usually works 70% of the time.
So I just wanted to say hello to Michael, and he has a question. What is your favorite way to do evidence reviews?
Evidence review is a lot of times what we'll do is all our video files will be numbered. We don't go through and change the names of them until we've actually reviewed it, and if we've actually had captured anything in it, then that one's flagged. Like if Ian reviews a piece of footage, he goes through it and he finds something. What Ian does is he makes a note. He goes and pulls up Google, makes some notes, and he'll timestamp that time, and he'll timestamp what he's got. Um, on private investigations, we go through it's double reviewed, and what I mean by that is Ian will look at it, I'll watch it also. We all load it up on Drive so everybody has access to it, and it's double reviewed. Ian will get his timestamps, I get my timestamps on the same video, and then we compare. Um, the that right there is a way that you can isolate evidence. You go back and review it. I'll review his timestamps. He reviews my timestamps. And a lot of times we might can help each other as far as determining whether this may be something we can look at further and evaluate it further. Um, I don't really like going through and running it through any kind of editor or anything like that. Any our video evidence, because you know, once you start doing that, then you start dropping credibility on it in my book.
So what happens if you and Ian don't agree that y'all, let's say, hear an EVP.
It's absolutely 100% thrown out. If we can't both sit there and say that this is paranormal, it's automatically thrown out, and that's the way it should be. Um, Audio evidence is pretty much the same way we go through. We're both going to listen to it, and we actually handle like our content that we go out and film for YouTube. We'll do that a little different. Like we'll each, because there's so much, we'll go through and we'll have our own files that we'll go through and we'll watch and listen to, and then we'll tag it. And because that way, and then Ian can go back through and, like, if I tag something, he'll just go back through and listen to what I've tagged or look at what I've tagged to see if what he thinks. Um, and that way, just because there's so much of it in there. Now, when, like I said, with our clients, though, that's where we want to be 100% on point. You know, our content's about telling the story, giving the history, the research of the place, the location, and just to share the location. We do take pride in evidence on there, but we also have to make sure that we want to be 100% with our client, because that's their life every day, and that they're having to live in that environment every day. So that's the main reason why we do that.
So I have to ask a question to Ian. What was your impression on your first residential case?
I'm trying to think what the first residential case was that we went on. Well, I know that one of them we went on, and I don't know if this is the first one or not, but I don't know. It just seemed like the on that one that we were just there to entertain, but then we kind of went on another one. Yeah. Then we went on that other one, and it was like a real deal. But usually, Eric goes through and handles, the contacting the clients and doing all that stuff, and I just kind of help him out filming it. So
yeah. So I have to ask this question. There's two, actually. Did you find an uptick in people calling saying they thought their house was haunted during, the pandemic? And
I did. I have, over the last several years that we've actually been in Google search, where we're listed on Google. Uh, I, there's been a general rule of thumb that all calls would come in three. We might go, and then all of a sudden in 2 days we get three calls back to back. And so, but during the pandemic, I believe we did, honestly, and I think that was more people were spending more time at home. They were more involved in their home life. Isolation, had a lot of anxiety. Anxiety can be a catalyst for contributing to paranormal activity in a residence, I believe. And so, yeah, absolutely, we ended up with more calls during, I guess, over the last year and a half than we probably ever have.
yeah. And the other thing is, and I've heard it from so many people, that, because I get it. There's teams that are like, I'm not touching residentials, and you have teams that are like, yeah, well, that's our thing. And people that deal with a lot of residentials, they get horror stories, and I mean, as in, I've tried to put this as nicely as possible. Either you're there for entertainment, like you say, that they just want to talk to you, or they're inviting their friends over and, oh, check this out. Have y'all had any nightmarish things like that happen to you guys?
Actually, and I'll talk about this. I think Ian knows very well about it. Ian was not quite around yet when we took on a case for an elderly lady over in the little small town of Brinkley, Arkansas. we actually took on a case, and um, she it was actually her daughter who lived in Chicago contacted us and asked for help. And like I said, Em wasn't in the group yet, and she called us and she said, "Look, my mom's having, crazy things are happening around the house, and I really need to get her some help and try to figure out what's going on down there. She's trying to raise two grandkids by herself. One's 13, the other one's 11, and she's just having a lot of issues." So I went in, I went in and started. I talked a little bit further with her, and then made it a point for her to have her mom call me. And she called. I had her call, and she started talking to me and told me about dishes flying in the floor, breaking, um, TV turning over, just all kinds of stuff like that, almost like a poltergeist type situation going on. And this woman was actually she was older. She was in her mid 70s, and so I was generally concerned for her, because she was. I mean, like I said, all this was going on, and glass had been broken in the house, plates, of course. So generally I was concerned, and especially after the fact that she told me that you don't have to believe me. All you have to do is come and talk to the police department. The police department has been here 4 different times and taken reports and even put in the reports that they've witnessed the paranormal activity happening. Please come help. And so when she said that, I hurried up, got off the phone with her, made a call, contacted the Brinkley Police Department, um, found out found out who patrolled that area, asked for that officer to give me a call. He called me back. I asked him about making a call to this woman's house. He confirmed it to me, and I said, "Would you meet me there and talk to me about it?" Okay. So we went out. We went to go investigate it and find out exactly what was going on. The police department rolls up there. They're 4 cars deep when they roll up on us. They get out. I had 4 officers come in and talk to me, and gave me their side of the story of what they witnessed, what they saw. Um, it led me to believe that they were genuinely experiencing paranormal phenomena.
Right.
Um, Come to find out, the 11-year-old grandson, was the one that was behind all of this. There was no paranormal activity. We had set up actually set up GoPro cameras throughout the residence, and we actually caught him on camera. And but he was the one that was destroying things in the house. We call it plain as day. Um, I actually walked in the house. I almost died that day. Actually, I I had stood outside and to, on a break. I was on a 5 minute break. Stood outside the door. I walked in the door. I went to step into the hallway, which the hallway ran the length of the house, and the bathroom was on one far end of the hallway, and the kitchen was directly at the other end of the hallway. And where I came in the front door was right next to the kitchen. And when I went to go step out into the hallway, I took my first step. A hammer came flying down the hallway, ended in the wall, and that was from the 11-year-old. And that had come to find out, actually, the 11-year-old child had been through such a lot of trauma, and that's the reason he was there with grandmother. His father had died, and
Mm.
there was a bad situation surrounding that, and the child being left in the home with the parent that had passed away. And so, I mean, just a lot of trauma there, a lot of mental trauma,
Mm.
and and that happened. We wrapped it up. We went back. We reviewed our GoPro footage. We saw what was going on. We figured it out, and we wrapped up and we left. Later that following day, I contacted the daughter, talked to the doctor, explained to her what we had saw on camera. Even though I didn't want to call and say, hey, this was the cause to it.
Right.
We did that, and then we proceeded to contact her mom and explain to her mom what was going on, and explained to her that we recommend that she look at trying to get some professional help. There was nothing paranormal going on there that we could help her with. And but yeah, like I said, that was the day I almost personally died myself. But that was an absolute nightmare case, and that was
Oh,
actually pushed me to actually at there for about there for about 4 months. I wouldn't take any residential private case home because of
I can. Whew.
that.
And that's a hard thing to do, to say, hey, the 11-year-old in the house is causing this damage. That's a ooh.
That was a scary feeling, and and to realize to go in there and to see all that damage. And I will say that the 11-year-old knew what he was doing. Of course, that all this stuff was being damaged, but yet the Xbox and his TV weren't damaged. So I mean, but with everything else, though, I was generally in fear for his grandmother. I was worried
Right.
about.
Well, especially if he threw a hammer. Oh my God.
He threw it with such force that I was scared that if it had hit me, it probably would have killed me.
Oh
You know,
Lord, have
so
mercy. I mean, I'm old school, and I got whoopings, and that would be. I mean, that. Oh, I mean, after you get the shock over, you just want to. Yeah.
I felt the wind off of it when it flew past my face, and I don't think I've ever discussed that with anybody before. Exactly,
Wow.
other than everybody that was there that day working with us on the case. But yeah, it was incredible. It actually made me second guess myself as far as taking on any other private cases. But then again, that happens, and you think that, and then the next person calls, and they are sincere and they are legitimate. And they desperately need help, and they're in the same shoes that I was in 14 years ago when I had stuff going on in my house, and I felt like I was alone. And,
Yeah.
back then, 14 years ago, we're here in the Bible Belt, and it was taboo to even begin to talk to somebody about, hey, I think I got a ghost roaming my halls of my house.
People are shocked when I tell them that. I was like, look, here in the South, I said, it is the Bible Belt. It's okay to tell ghost stories. I said, everybody's got a ghost story to tell, but it's not. It's a ghost story about something. It doesn't involve the family or the person or anything like that. But if something is truly happening, no, you don't say anything. Mm-mm.
Exactly, and that's what it was. And I'm sitting here, for the longest time and couldn't reach out to anybody and get help.
Mm.
The only paranormal group that we had in Memphis that I could actually reach out to had actually pretty much completely quit handling paranormal investigations. I guess because of the same kind of issues that arise as handling residential calls. It went in from being, paranormal investigators and doing that to doing grief counseling.
Yeah.
So you know, like I said, you get that call and you say, well, they need help because they're like me and like what I went through, and so
Mm-hmm. I can I can understand 100% about that. Okay, so on a lighter note, if money wasn't an issue and you could go anywhere in the world, what location are you going to take us to go investigate?
mine would be Pavilia Island. 100%
Mhm.
Pavilion. I would have to go see it. I can remember back. I can remember back in Zach Bagan's early career of Ghost Adventures, going going to Pavilion Island, and it seemed like I would have to say, and to this day, it's probably one of the most interesting places that I've actually seen a paranormal investigator go. And I would just love. I mean, there's I don't even know if you can get access to it now, but I'm sure if money
It's
wasn't,
it's if you're caught, you're fined. And from what I understand, you have to pay the guy riding the boat, and that he can even get popped. And so it's like, if you're not there at this time, we're leaving you.
right, right.
I told my husband, because my husband lived in Italy for a little bit, and I was like, oh, I was like, we can go down there. He's like, no. How about you, Ed? If there was any location in the world, where would you like to go?
Oh, I don't know. I saw a creepy location one time. Was it the Island of the Dolls? Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's where I want to go because I hate little dolls and clowns and stuff. I think that would be pretty creepy. So either that or somewhere in Europe, some old castles or something. I don't know. I haven't seen too much European ghost stuff.
It is it's interesting. Because like in France, their culture is they accept spirits, they know spirits are there, but you leave them alone. And it was funny because it was a French woman that was interviewing the Paranormal Truth. And she's like, why are you all crazy? They're from the UK. She's mainland. And she's like, why are y'all all so crazy about ghost hunting? And so when they started asking her questions, she's like, no reputable location is going to allow paranormal investigators in. We just leave them alone. We don't interact with them, and I was like, oh.
Wow.
And being there, the history, I mean, I've been to Luxembourg and Germany and Belgium and the UK and Scotland. Scotland, that's a fun place. And that's also our hotel room was sitting on Hangman Square, where they did all the public hanging.
Oh, wow.
And of course, my kid decides to have his second night terror.
Oh no. Those are awful.
And I'm going, in my head, because I'm not telling, I wasn't going to tell my husband. He don't freak out anyways. So, but I was like, okay, this is coincidence. But Europe the history is beautiful. And that's what bugs me so much is we don't take care of our history here.
Right. We just tear it down and move on to the next project.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as time's going on, we aren't really as focused on preservation as we are build new.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly, tearing something down, building something new, or and history is forgotten over time. We see that every day, especially here in Memphis. All the time you see places being dismantled or torn down, and downtown's a good example of that. The downtown, the old the castle is slowly being torn down. We call it the castle, but it was part of the part of the family that actually owned the Pink Palace Museum.
Oh,
here.
okay.
And so I mean, it's yeah, we don't preserve here, and that's
No.
as the closer or the further that we move along, it we're losing track of it. We are.
Hmm.
That's why it's so important to protect and insure places like Waverly
Hmm.
View, Trans Allegheny, and places like that. We have to preserve
Yeah.
those.
So, um, have you guys ever encountered anything really dark and nasty?
Um, I would say that I would say personally only on two occasions that I can really say um, that I've actually really just had an encounter with something that I believe that may have been dark or demonic in nature. Uh, I would say I would say there's actually an old church here in West Tennessee about 40 minutes outside of Memphis that was built in 1847 and burned down in 1840. The year it was built, it burned down, and they rebuilt it in 1848. But that church set vacant for about, I think it's been vacant for almost 60 years now. Um, 30 years, they've had problems with people going out there doing Satan worship, doing performing dark ritual ceremonies out there. It was even confirmed by the sheriff's office, and
Wow.
so of course, I do think that there's uh, something demonic going on there, but I think that's because it's not because of what his it's not because of
It was brought there.
what people have done. Yeah, I think it's what people have done or what people have opening a gateway has brought in by doing that. That place I went to, that place really, really, it bothered me. It bothered me. I went out there. We were going to investigate it. We were going to investigate it. We were going to spend the night at the church and investigate it thoroughly. And I went out there the weekend before and was actually going out there to shoot our B-roll, do our cinematic shots and stuff like that. And I had a couple of unexplained instances happen to me out there, and one really bothered me, and we actually never even went back and investigated. And so I that place
Wow.
is definitely had something demonic, and I haven't messed with it because, and the reason why is I don't even want to bring that into
Mhm.
my life. I don't have to. If I'm not helping somebody, then I don't want to bring it into my life.
Yeah.
I believe it wears on you. I believe it wears on you emotionally, mentally, even physically, and then of course the other one would be the old mortuary that we took on back in September and October, and that's really it.
What about you, and have you run across anything like that?
No, just the mortuary. Like I said, I'm still a newbie, so Eric's got a whole lot more experience. But
That's
yeah, that's
okay.
yeah.
Wow.
He's definitely
So,
going to get his feet wet.
so, um, what is your opinions on people claiming that they've got scratched or touched or pushed, um, and immediately saying, "Oh, it's demonic," or could it be something innocent?
Well, I'm going to say that like I said, I usually don't even put the word demonic in my vocabulary
Right.
when I'm dealing with a client or anything like that. Even in the instance where they say that I've been scratched, or even in our client at the mortuary's case where she actually had a bite mark come up on her arm and on her leg. That's the furthest thing from my vocabulary. I
Mhm.
you know, as far as what I'm telling them now. Is it in the back of my mind? Absolutely. I mean, you always want to be prepared for the
Right.
unexpected, but in the same sense, like I said, uh, a lot of times if a spirit can, in my opinion, can be just mean, honorary, don't want you in its space, so you're invading. In other words, you're invading its space, and maybe the only outward manifestation that they can cause is to get you out of their spaces, to claw at you, push you, something like that. I went through something similar with the last rites box that I ended up at home and being pushed down the stairs. But yet I don't think it was demonic. Um, I honestly don't believe it was demonic, but then again, I think that it just basically didn't want me in its space. Um, so yeah, I believe that those can happen. Personally, I don't think I've ever been scratched. Like I said, I've been pushed. I felt my jacket pull. Um, I felt like my elbow being touched. But as far as the scratching and that, yeah, I think it's very possible. But I definitely don't think it's right off the bat. I always tell a client if they holler, well, I was scratched. And yeah, is it demonic? First thing I always tell them is, we got to have some serious stuff going on for me to even consider this to be demonic.
Right.
You know, people are just gotten so accustomed to watching TV and seeing the kind of stuff portrayed on TV, so that's what they think, right off the bat, and it's totally different, and it's just like ghost hunting in general. I always tell people, I say, if you want to be a ghost hunter or paranormal investigator, for the fun of it, then you're in the wrong. You're looking in the wrong field because it's the most boring thing you can do. You know, and so, you know, uh, in the same sense that, it, it's the passion just to learn the facts and learn the truth.
Yeah.
You know, um, what about you? And what do you think about scratches?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really seen anybody get scratched. I've seen the videos of people getting scratched, but I don't know. It just seems like if it's a spirit doing it, it's like why is it doing it? Like I mean, I don't think that if it's scratching you, it's trying to get your attention. It's like trying to hurt you. So I don't know. I don't really know if it's demonic or what. I never really thought about that actually, but I know people do jump to demonic. Oh, it's demonic. I got pushed down the stairs or I got scratched, but I don't know.
I've been
I keep my
touched.
mind open.
So I've been touched. I don't like being touched. I don't like the feeling of it. And when I'm touched, I get creative words start flowing out of my mouth. I get very angry because I respect your boundary, you respect mine, and yeah,
I actually, I really don't mind it. I really don't mind, and I always welcome interaction. If you want to come up and touch the device I'm holding in my hand, or if you just want to come up and touch me on the hand, or you want to touch me on the arm, just let me know that you're here. Tap me on the shoulder, let me know that you're here. And I do that often. You can ask Ian. A lot of times I'll invite him to come up and interact with me and Ian both, and Ian's like, wait a minute, but in the same sense, it's I don't mind that. Now the pushing part, yeah, I kind of do, but it's I want to if that's what it takes, if it wants to push me because I'm invading its space, I can't just I can't say that yeah, it would scare me, but it's all in the name of science.
hmm. So if you could only have three things, top three things to bring to an investigation, what would y'all bring?
I would say if I only had three things, it would be it would definitely be a tri-field meter, a digital recorder, and my camera. 100%. You know, at least that way, I can, or even a compass. Even if I didn't have a tri-field meter, you can always use a compass to look for. You can look for electromagnetic anomalies. There's a very simple way. You can look on YouTube, and it'll tell you exactly. There's a couple of videos. I think Viper Paranormal actually has a video up on YouTube that shows you how to use a compass for basically the same thing a K2 meter is. But you definitely want to be able to record your audio so you can hear it. You want visual. But again, you definitely want to be able to pick up the anomalies within the environment.
Right. What about you, Ann?
I'd say a full spectrum camera for sure, a recorder, and then maybe a spirit box.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're the first to say full spectrum.
Yeah.
Out of all the questions, this question, you're the first one. I love full spectrum.
I love my full spectrum. I'll leave it setting up and just recording, and then I'll go back through the footage, and it's amazing what you catch.
So, what are y'all's views on provoking?
Don't provoke. We won't provoke. If we go into an environment and we investigate it and we're not catching anything, you know, we're going to try a couple of different tactics. We even will do an abandonment situation where we just put the cameras up, put the devices out, let it roll, leave the area, and let it roll. You know, I don't look at spirits or entities as circus animals. I don't expect them to perform on command for us, but in the same sense, if they if they don't want to react to us being there, then let's just leave them in their natural environment and see what happens while we're not there. And but in the cases of provoking, I've only used it a couple of times. In provoking the mortuary, I use provocation there.
Mm-hmm.
I only did that after having some guy from another paranormal investigator and talking to them before I did it. I don't believe in provocation. I really don't. I don't think it's something good to lose unless you're waging spiritual warfare.
Mm-hmm. I guess you would agree too, and
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah. So, and I ask this because, and it shocks people when I ask this question because I've seen it happen. What is your opinions on people that want to attract the darker side of things?
Well, I'm going to say that paranormal research in the name of science is about just discovering the truth and finding the truth and being able to provide the evidence to prove that it exists. Beyond shadow of a doubt. Whether it's demonic, angelic, or spiritual human beings. I mean, in that sense, or whatever the case it may be, whatever it is out there because nobody actually has the definite answer as to what we're communicating with that we can't see. And so I believe I believe that demons, their best line of warfare is deceit and a lie. And so they would, of course, it may not be great Aunt Bertha that we're communicating with on the other side. Instead it's something demonic that's pertaining that to make you more open and more susceptible to keep a base of communication established with them. And so, I personally don't. I personally don't like to investigate with people that just only want to focus on looking for that.
Mhm.
A lot of times, if I that's like any place that I know of that a public location we go to and investigate. If I know that that place necessarily is known to host something demonic or dark like that, a lot of times I don't. We won't even go investigate it, just because of the fact that we know that, and we don't want to.
Right.
We don't. We want to document. We want to be able to capture physical evidence, but then again, you don't want that in your life. I think that if you bring that into your life, I think it can have a lot more adverse effects on your well-being, and I don't gravitate toward
Mm-mm. I mean, you know, I research people before I interview them, and I mean, oh my goodness, I have seen the gamut. Oh, I mean, to wanting to be possessed, thinking they're possessed. Uh, 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 I mean, I have never personally. I've just had an angry. I called him angry man, and before I met my husband, and I mean, I don't get frightened. I know he's there, and he was only in my bedroom, but when you walk in, he's like right up in your face, just yelling. And my husband moved to Holland. I was like, okay, he's gone. That sucker decided to grab my ankle in the middle of the night, and I sat up cussing, and I was like, "Don't ever touch me!" And I was like, "Oh my!" I told him before I came. I said, "I'm just telling you, things happen." And he just looked over and he goes, "I didn't touch you. I'm not talking to you." Luckily, he just kind of moved on. I think he kind of got pushed out because, I mean, Rotterdam was bombed 3 times. It was under German control, and bad things happen. And I think it just kind of got pushed out. But it shocks me still to this day. I mean, no. So the next question I have to ask you is: have you ever run across an elemental?
Actually, I'm gonna. I'll tell you this story. Ian wasn't with us at the time that we actually captured it, but we the scientist type of side with me wants to sit there and say that we captured a will o' the wisp. Okay, and because that's how scientists seem to explain it. Um, what do I believe that we actually captured? I believe that we actually captured a ferret, and we were we were actually investigating the old mausoleum here in Memphis that was the original mausoleum that's now defunct, but it was the original burial place for Elvis Presley before he was moved to Graceland. And
I didn't even know that.
yes, he was when he right after he passed away, they had buried him at the Forest Hill Mausoleum, and there was an attempt. They 3 men had attempted to steal his body, and after that was foiled, they moved him from there to Graceland, and then later moved Vernon and Gladys to Graceland after that. But we were actually investigating it. It's defunct. It's not maintained. Um, but we were investigating it, and Chris and I were actually there, and we had one of the best direct answer ghost box sessions that I think I've ever conducted, other than Ian and I conducting running the Gansfield experiment and getting crazy responses. But it was absolutely insane. And Chris is actually sitting on the floor, Indian style. He's watching the camera. The camera's sitting on the. We got it on a rig. He's sitting there. He's monitoring the display, and basically I'm standing there asking questions. And this I will call it we'll just call it a wisp for right now. This wisp actually manifests about halfway up on screen, and
I saw
it shoots all the way down the corridor, which is probably around 60 to maybe 70 feet. It flies up above the doorway, comes in, flies inside one of the tombs, flies back out of the tomb, comes down to the hallway, back towards the camera. K2 meter sitting in the floor, and it actually flies right into the floor and disappears right next to the K2 meter. And so we took it, and actually the same night that we actually recorded that was my first playback video that I went back through and was just watching. And I put it on the big screen, was watching it on the big screen, and I saw this. And it's like 4:30 in the morning at that time. And I actually pick up the phone and I'll call Chris, and Chris already in the bed. I wake him up and I said, dude, get up now, get on your computer. I am sending this to you on Drive. You have to look at this. And Chris saw it, and I said, Chris jumps up, he goes and looks at it, and he says, hold on, man, let me rub my eyes and wake up. And he looks at it, he goes, what is this? And he said, we recorded this? And I said, yeah, we recorded it. And I said, you're telling me you didn't see this? And he said, I never saw that on camera. I never saw it. I said, I know I didn't see it with my own eyes. And I was watching down that hallway. You know, I couldn't see, it was pitch black in there, of course, but, you know, it was all filmed in the dark. But he said, and it's the middle of the winter time, so it's not a butterfly, it's not a moth, it's nothing like that. This thing is, and it actually it undulates and just changes shape. I tried every way that we could running it. We ran it through editors, we isolated it, we ran it down, and we pulled all the frames out, individual frame by frame by frame. You know, of course, you know, we film in about 60 frames per second. Right. So in 1 second, we have 60 separate frames that we can go through and analyze and look at. And I mean, we just were right on the money. And I mean, just going through this with a fine tooth comb to debunk it. And actually, we still, even when we posted it out, as being a will-o'-the-wisp, you know. Well, I mean, we were in a mausoleum, and you know, the will-o'-the-wisp. They say, basically, scientists say that this is just, you know, decay of matter, you know, and it ignites once it comes into contact with oxygen. And however, we didn't see it with our own eyes, and a will-o'-the-wisp, you know, is like, you know, like ball out of lightning. Of course, you're going to see it, you know. But anyway, we called it a wisp. And, I'd actually ended up taking that and actually sending that clip, actually sending it over to, even had Brandon Alvis take a look at it, just to look at it and see what his personal opinion of it was. And even he actually came back and said that this reminded him of this certain piece of evidence that he had captured, and that, you know, what he called it was a photon manifestation, you know. But I believe, honestly, I believe it was an elemental. 100%, I believe it was an elemental.
It's interesting. Hinsdale House has had so many reports of different elementals, and I know one of them is they had fairies. It was Mike Ricksecker, and he says there were blue lights, and he says it was cold, and he says it was fairies. And he even he had an apple, bit into it, left it as just an offering to him. And that morning, you see him. He looks at it and he's like, something has drilled into this and taken little chunks out.
Oh
It
wow.
was very weird. And then a team that I follow was there, and they kept hearing stuff outside. They went outside, and it was a quick flash. And I was like, "There's something right there." And they're like, "What?" And I was like, "There is something right there." I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't tall, but it it looked like it had a deer head, but it was like a skeleton with little horns, but it wasn't as big as a deer. I don't know how to explain it. The vibe it gives off.
All that, a lot of that is a lot of it from European and Irish folklore, and I believe every bit of it. I believe that a lot of stuff like that.
Native American too.
Exactly. It has a way that you can find stories all over the world of similar instances. Even like one of the big things that I like to constantly research is like the Nephilim and the giants. And everybody has stories. If you look at all over the world, every continent on Earth, on the planet Earth, has stories about giants. And so a lot of it, everybody says, "Oh, it's folklore, folklore, folklore," but so many different places has so many stories about giants. So it's really interesting.
That's what me and my husband we talked a little bit about it on on I had an open panel chat, and we were talking about that very thing because my husband was very intrigued with it, and he's like, it actually. I mean, he's like, when yeah, we could go all night with that, especially my husband. He likes to dig into that. So, what are things that you should pick up on during an investigation?
A lot of stuff that I pick up on is just like I said. One thing majorly is the environment itself. When you walk into it, the feeling it has. Like I said, the human body is the best tool you can have in your arsenal of ghost hunting gear. Um, and so, you know, a lot of things we pick up on is that. Also, one thing that you can also pick up on that I've often picked up on is like my other investigators, you know, uh, their attitudes as they get into the night, as they're investigating, and it's like if they're having interaction um, with whatever's going on there. A lot of times you can see there's like their state of being, it actually changes, and depending on what we're dealing with, or maybe what they've come into contact with, or and that's one of the main things that I do pick up on, and I do watch and do notice, on any investigation that we do. Um, you know, I know that I know Ian notices it too, about me or Richard or Chris or whoever. And so like I said, that's one of the main things I pick up on. Also, one of the things that I like to pick up on is by trade, I was a recovery agent for a long time. And one of my specialties were interrogating people, investigating people, speaking to people. And so a lot of times I'll find myself where I'll be more drawn to the client to, I might talk to them and ask them the same question, just to put it in a different way, try to see if I can kind of get some kind of different response out of them. But, as we're investigating and as we're finding out information, and we relay that information to the client, a lot of times I'll pick up on like how the client's reacting to that information, what they're doing with that information, as far as like, if they're using it in a good way to try to help us get to the solution of their issue or whatever. Uh, that's definitely what I have to pick up on when I'm on an investigation.
What about you, Ann?
Yeah, just when you go into, like he said, when you go in a location, your feelings and how you feel once you're in there. If it's heavy, if it's light, is it cold? Is it a warm area? I mean, and you're listening, so you're being really quiet. You're just listening for something that's out of the normal, and just kind of like he was saying with looking at watching your teammates and seeing how they're changing, if they're getting angry or just their mood changes. I mean, you kind of sense that. I know we've been on a couple of investigations where for all of a sudden everybody just started arguing. It was weird. It was just like a switch turned off because before they were fine and here they are, almost at blows, and it's weird. But yeah, definitely your body and just being aware of your surroundings and being in tune.
That's awesome. So you guys are on the road going to well, like Waverly. I mean, that's a good drive. So on your road trip, what is your go-to snacks and drinks?
Gas station hot dogs.
Hot dogs, yeah.
Yep.
Hot dogs and Slim Jims.
Slim Jims, yep. The monster ones though.
Yeah. Slim Jim. Yeah.
And what about drinks?
What?
Diet Coke.
Yeah, definitely Coca-Cola or sweet tea. Sweet tea more than likely. Sweet tea. Absolutely got to have my sweet tea.
I'm a 1 cup a day coffee girl. My husband can drink it. I'm like, it's too hot.
I will say late at night or wintertime coffee, definitely. After an investigation, go get something to eat, definitely coffee kind of night, But yeah, it's definitely got to be. Yeah, it's definitely got to be gas station hot dogs. 100%.
From the truck stops.
Love truck stops.
Oh, see, I keep hearing about all these truck shops, Love's, Sheets, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean, they went watched one guy.
If we had a Buc-ee's.
He had nachos. I was like, really? No. Truck stop nachos. Okay.
Yeah. Or Buc-ee's.
I see. And then you got Texas and their weird truck stop at the mall. So, what are some things that get on your nerves during an investigation?
I think it has to be, in my honest opinion, and every investigator hates it. I'm pretty sure, for the most part, is set up. I don't even mind tear down. I think it's set up. I think it's just, having to go through and putting all the equipment together to get it set up, to get it ready to go. I absolutely, I dread it. I just dread it because you're trying to hurry up and do it so you can get everything out so you can start investigating. I don't even mind tearing down. Tearing down is good with me. It don't bother me. But that's really has to be my only thing that I dread about it.
What about you, Ian?
Yeah, he stole my answer. The setup. It's almost to the point now to where I just want to say, let me just get a cell phone and a light and just go.
I love y'all's answer because a lot of answers I get are like people are like, oh my God, people talking. They won't shut up. Yeah, it's like, well, okay, I get that.
But it is like, especially if you go on a location that's bigger, that is a lot more expensive, and you might go with like one or two other teams, try to help alleviate some of that cost. And they're on the same floor as you, or they're at the other end, but the echo carries so much in those buildings you may get frustrated with it. I mean, everybody has that kind of, kind of issue, but in the same sense that and nobody ever complains about getting there and get going and all that, but it's like it's tedious. You get there, you drag all your equipment in, and you sit there and you go through it and you start building it out, get it ready to go, and the next thing you know, it's 2 hours have passed, and you've got all this equipment laid out. Now you got to go put it out and get it situated where you need it to be. So yeah, it is that, and then tear down. Everybody says they're always dragging by the end of the night. They hate tear down. All that. Nah, it's fine with me. I don't care about that. It's definitely having to get everything together.
So, where would you guys hope to see the paranormal field in 10 to 15 years down the road?
What I would like to see, and this is, you know, with mainstream science, I would like science to be a little bit more understanding, that realizing that the paranormal cannot be replicated 2 times on command in a lab setting to prove that it's real. So I think I want to see science, mainstream science, actually come down to saying that this is, under peer review, under empirical data, this is what we would classify, as we think is going to be mainstream enough evidence to present that ghosts are real, hauntings are real. They actually do happen. I would like to see that. I would like to see technology increase a little bit more in our detection and being able to pick up on things. I hope that ITC technology
Yeah.
will, keeps going and keeps growing. I noticed the other day, another gentleman that I follow that's very well known in the ITC research community is Jay Prather.
Yes.
I noticed that, in some of his posts that I've read, is that he's not building his devices anymore, and he might be one for on request, but somebody like him that's already pushed the ITC research field, you know, steps ahead of itself, you know, I kind of see like we're taking a step back when somebody like him and is devoting his life
It broke my heart because there's a team I'm good friends with them, and I've interviewed them, and they have one of his devices, and I think they were in Gettysburg, and it's the only time you hear a man's voice come out of it, and she's walking up. He's still got it on, but he's talking on the phone, and it called his girlfriend a rude word. It didn't like her at all. I was so shocked because it was so clear out of there. And I've seen other people do it, but this is before I saw other people do it. And to hear that he's, kind of backing off on that, it just breaks my heart. I mean,
it does. It really breaks my heart. And I mean, his devices have been some of the clearest, provided some of the clearest audio, that we've had over the last couple of years. That he's really been building. And but there's others out there building devices too, and they do really good jobs. But like I said, you know Jay Prather's really developed his devices, and I kind of hate to see it go backwards, take with him quit building. But I would love to see ITC research continue to grow over the next 10 years. Uh, uh, what I like, one thing I would like for us to be able to do over the next 10 years is be able to come up with a standardized method of submitting paranormal evidence for peer review, and that maybe we should maybe hopefully there'll be like a organization or an association, and would actually, in matter of fact, Brandon Albus had talked about this, but organizations would have a panel of, you know, paranormal investigators, and with all kinds of different backgrounds that you would submit evidence to for peer review. And
Scotland.
I would like to see
Scotland has one.
and it
There's an organization in Scotland that does just that and that alone. The people that work on in this organization don't go out and investigate. They have, but they don't. They've pushed that aside to do this, and they've decided to only work with one team because really, if you add more, it just adds too much of a workload. And they deal with a team in Scotland, in Edinburgh, that turns everything over to them, and they review everything. They're very, strict on how they do things. And right there, I've said the same thing as you. I was like, they're doing it in Scotland right now. Right. And very few people, except I think a lot of the UK people know, but here in America, a lot of people don't know that there is, and that they do sometimes will take evidence from other people to help them out or rule something out. And
they should. I really think that if because as it stands now, that we go out, we investigate, we're looking for our own truth, and if we put it out on YouTube, then it is what it is. It's entertainment, right? And because there's so much stuff out there that that you have to discern and decide for yourself whether this is just created for entertainment. Is it staged? Is it fake? Is this real evidence? And I think that there's so much of that out there, and there's a lot of groups that are doing their hardest to provide answers and look for answers. And I think that having something like that, or having an organization like that you can be a member of, and you submit your evidence, and let everybody else have the opportunity to review that evidence. And I think it's some of the greatest credibility you can get and validation you get, in the field. And of course, I want the generalized public to look at evidence, because that's my main goal, is to educate, and and so, and to learn. It's all a learning experience for us too. That's always, and Rick and Chris and everybody. I've always said that that not only do we go out when we're going out here to investigate, we also want to go out and learn. We want to learn new ideas, new theories, new concepts to investigate. No investigation is ever the same. You're not going to investigate every place you go to the exact same way. So you constantly have to learn. That's we've investigated with other people, and you learn your tricks and methods, and say, hey, I should incorporate this, and kind of how, like, on my next, I go to try this out, just see how it works, or like do this with this and see what kind of results I can get, and it works. It helps. It's a constant learning field that we have to evolve with.
Well, I've got one more question, and I'm going to ask Ian first. Do you have any pointers or tips for somebody who may be interested in getting into the paranormal?
Go do it. Just go do it. Get your phone. Go do it. I mean, that's kind of what I did. He did reach out to me, but just going on an investigation and just do it. You'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it, for real. So,
that's awesome.
That's all I've got.
How about you, Eric?
I'm going to say, of course, like Ian said, the main thing is get off the couch, get out, and go do it, and go out. none of us have answers. If we did, there's no need for us to be out looking for it,
Right.
trying to find it. And so the best thing I can say is just to get out and go do it. Research, do your own research. Go get a book. I ended up with a book called Ghost that is a book that's full of about 72 different cases that was handled over the period of the early 1900s. And all these cases were handled by different investigators, but there were cases, and I'm still reading. It's a 2,000-page book, and I'm still going through it. I'm still reading on it, but I can look at searching and investigating, see what they've done that maybe we've kind of forgotten about over time, that we don't really do anymore as far as investigating. You always learn different methodology from different people, and research, and then Google, paranormal group in your town or your major city close to you, and find a paranormal group that's right there in your community. Reach out to them and say, "Hey, I got some free time. I want to come investigate. I want to learn how to investigate, and you know, and find out if I can figure out truth for myself, and then and go from there." The only way you're going to do it is to get out there and do it. Learn out there and do it. I really think that that's really what anybody that wants to be an investigator, and I encourage anybody to reach out. We get calls like that all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. I had so much fun with you guys. I mean, the story. Oh my goodness, the stories. I appreciate the opportunity you've given me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Y'all are what makes everything. So what? Don't do anything. I'm gonna have my husband pull you off backstage just real quick, and I'm gonna end it, and I'll see you in just a sec.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I had so much fun, and I kept getting goosebumps listening to the stuff they were telling. Oh my goodness. I really had fun, and I really appreciate everybody that's watching, that's going to watch. Thank you so much, because it means the world to me that y'all give me this opportunity. So I hope y'all have a wonderful Sunday night and have a good Monday morning. Thank you.